Hi guys, Vino here and welcome to this Vino Plunk production, and in this video I'm going to be going through all three of the 60th anniversary Doctor Who episodes and of course the Christmas special as well. I do want to make this very clear in this video that these are my opinions and not necessarily shared by other people. I would also like to make it very clear that I am going to be talking about some hot button topics when it comes to some of the things, because at this precise moment in time there's kind of a discourse online at the moment that I'm not particularly a fan of, and at the end of the day I have my opinions, I have my views, and it's as far as I'm concerned it's not for the better of of humanity or for Doctor Who, to be completely honest with you. And I will be going through some of the stuff in my reviews of each of the anniversaries. So without further ado, please grab a drink of choice and let's head straight into the first special, which was the Star Beast. So very first off the start, this has been said by so many people online, it was a very nostalgia filled episode. Of course you had David Tennant meeting back up with Donna Noble, but of course there was this whole, you know, if he meets back up, if she sees his face again, she's going to die, basically. And we know that very quick off the bat they bumped into each other, and then she starts shouting Rose, which that was a very comical moment, obviously. And then we get the introduction of Rose Noble. Absolutely loved Rose Noble, and we find out that Rose makes these stuffies, these stuffed animals, as a sort of a business to help her mum and dad out. Of course this bit of a head scratcher, because of course the Doctor gave Donna as a wedding gift a triple rollover lottery ticket of 166 or 65 million pound. She donated it all to charity. Of course she did. Of course she did. Donated it all to charity. Yeah. So we then meet Ross's husband in the car, in the taxi, when the Doctor goes to the site where the rocket crash landed. That's the reason why I'm doing the air quotes there. And then as that all is going on, we also meet Beep the Meep, or rather Rose meets Beep the Meep. Obviously when we first meet Beep the Meep, we find out that they are alone, that the last of their kind. They're running from some assassins or something, which are the Wrath or the Roth, however you want to pronounce that. And then once they all sort of get together, I loved some of the aspects to do with the sonic screwdriver. I know there's a lot of people online that have said some things contrary to that, but I actually really liked the evolution of the sonic screwdriver. And I think personally for me, I long since did away with the did away with the idea that the sonic screwdriver was anything other than a super powered device. There are some people online that believe that the sonic screwdriver should be limited in what it can do. I am of the opinion that it's basically it's a plot contrivance. It's a way to get out some, it's a way for the writers to get out some sticky situations. So from that point, and I put that put that to bed years ago mentally for myself. So it being able to make force fields and make, you know, Avengers style windows that you can like use the sonic screwdriver as like a stylus to operate, I'm all on board with it. And to be honest, the increased production value, the increased everything the show is now getting, why not make force fields out of a sonic screwdriver? Whatever. So obviously they go through the terraced houses by the Doctor sonic screwdriving the mortar of the walls. They all get in a taxi and they drive off, and the Doctor's starting to piece things together. He's starting to sort of realise that not everything what it seems. He finds out that the Roth are actually using stun lasers or tranquilizers. They're not actually killing people. And then we get the reveal that obviously the Beep the Meep is actually a villain and we get that whole thing. We then go to back to the landing site of the rocket, because we then find out that the rocket is actually landed there. It didn't actually crash, it landed. And Beep the Meep wants to basically destroy London in order to launch the rocket. We then get the typical, and as the episode's been going on, Donna has been remembering more and more and more about the Doctor, until she finally calls him the Doctor, and he hasn't mentioned his name throughout the entirety of the episode up to this point, because he doesn't want to jog Donna's memory, because of course if he jogged it too much, then obviously she'd die. They then both get into the rocket. They get separated by glass, perspex, whatever that is, a divider of some description, which is a direct, obviously, comparison reflection to when obviously Wilf and the Doctor were in the radiation booth at the end of time. I think that was the episode it was in, if I remember correctly. And of course it's a direct callback to that. And of course Donna wants to help. She would do anything for Rose, her daughter. And of course the Doctor then proceeds to say a load of words. We then begin to find out they're actually trigger words, and they are to activate or reactivate the Dr. Donna. And then we get kind of a regeneration graphic, kind of, and Dr. Donna is back and gets into full gear, starts switching switches all over the place. The Doctor does the same thing, and they basically sabotage the rocket. And then, as if on cue, Donna collapses. Doctor comes over, and obviously we then kind of find out that she does die. The Beep the Meep then goes, oh, I got one last trick up my sleeve, goes to do that last trick up his sleeve, and then we get another voice going, well, you forgot basically about the ejection seat that's built into the rocket, press a few buttons, and then the ejection seat activates. It's none other than Rose Noble, and we find out that the metacrisis that's within inside Donna, of course, spawns Dr. Donna. Part of it has been passed down to Rose, and that's how she's able to live. She comes back to life, and then we basically get this kind of cool kind of three Doctor kind of situation. There has been some discourse online to do with the giggle when it comes to, you know, during the 60th anniversary, where was the multi-Doctor story? Well, both Russell T Davies and somebody else involved with the show has said they don't really like multi-Doctor stories. But I think in some ways this was kind of like a nod to a multi-Doctor story, because of course Rose, Donna and the Doctor all had knowledge of the Doctor. And then they basically essentially give up the power or the knowledge, otherwise it would end up killing them. And of course we are then introduced to a new character that is going to show up later on in the series, which of course is Rose Noble. So, my opinion of this episode is I loved it to bits. The production values, the practical effects mixed with digital effects, everything was really well done. I thought the whole non-binary, the fact that Rose is transgender, was actually handled rather well, personally, and I really liked everything to do with this episode. It was very nostalgic, very, what's the word, calling back to previous episodes. I get nostalgic, I'm just going to keep saying that. There are some people that think that the Metacrisis sidestep was kind of like a cop-out. I can see where people are going with that, but did you expect them to do anything else, really? What else did you expect them to do when it came to the Metacrisis? Of course, it was going to be solved by some sort of fantastical way, and that's something I do want to get onto, which Russell T Davies himself has said, is that the new iteration of Doctor Who is now a sci-fi fantasy. It's no longer hard sci-fi. So Doctor Who has always kind of stayed within hard sci-fi. New Who anyway has stayed within hard sci-fi. It was the original series Classic Who that was more sci-fi fantasy, And Russell T Davies is now sort of veering away from hard sci-fi, more into sci-fi fantasy, and I'm all for it. Now I've heard Russell T Davies say that, I'm into some of the more fantastical elements of this new series. Does it veer more towards magic rather than science fictional, science, explainable science stuff? Yes, but it's a TV show about an alien that runs around in a blue box, saving the world, when he could just go back in time and stop Beep the Meep from even coming to Earth in the first place. There are so many plot holes when you think of the fact that the Doctor can time travel. You've just got to suspend your disbelief and just watch it. Really enjoyed this episode. Let's move on to The World Blue Yonder. So this episode, I think, surprised a lot of people. I think it was held on quite a high pedestal before it came out, because a lot of people thought there's going to be more to it than there was at the end of the day. But I think this episode was really well done. It was more of a character episode than it was anything else, and it really pushed the buttons of both Donna and the Doctor especially. I don't think the Doctor has had much time, or hasn't had much time, to deal with the revelations from the Timeless Child and the Flux, and to have the fake Donna push some of those things for the Doctor to deal with them before he's had a chance to, that's some deep shit, to be honest. So the premise of this episode is the Doctor, at the end of Star Beast, Donna throws coffee on the TARDIS and it goes haywire. And they end up on this spacecraft on the edge of space, the edge of creation. The only thing that they can see is that there is a robot really far down a corridor, and there's like a voice keeps going over some kind of tannoy, some kind of announcement. They quickly work out that, well, the Doctor mentioned quite early on that he thinks it's a countdown of some description. And then they both come across alternate versions of each other. Now, there's a lot of discourse online saying that these creatures could be part of the same species as the same alien that's in Midnights, played brilliantly by, I've forgotten the actress's name. Anyway, that episode, everyone loves Midnights. So these, I'm gonna sneeze. These copies are basically trying to scan, in a way, both the Doctor and Donna, so they can be them, basically. And throughout the entire episode, there's a lot of probing, there's a lot of how do they think, why they think this way from the copies, because the more that they can replicate and copy the Doctor and Donna, basically they become the Doctor and Donna, and there will come a point where they just become the Doctor and Donna. We do later get on that the Doctor's copy basically wants to take the TARDIS and run off and become the Doctor and basically replace the Doctor in all of time, and I assume do some more villain type stuff rather than what the Doctor does. Some people have said the effects in this episode are kind of goofy, but it is what it is. But overall, this episode really creeped me out, actually, and I thought it was a really, really good character episode, with, of course, Doctor and David Tennant and Catherine Tate playing double roles, essentially. And that's all the actors that are in this episode, on screen anyway. So I thought it was really well done. Really, really creepy in times, and kind of forced the Doctor to deal with some stuff that the Doctor was not ready to deal with at that moment in time, and so we got a tantrum situation from the Doctor in this episode. Yeah, I just thought the whole episode was really well done. Some of the people have said that they think it's the weakest of the three. I think people are looking at it the wrong way. I don't think it was supposed to be necessarily a spectacle of an episode. That's the giggle, and we'll get onto that in a moment. I think this was meant to be a character episode. And on that note, for me, it absolutely did very good in that respect as a character episode. And almost like asking those difficult questions under the conceit of the episode. Basically, there was something else I was going to say that I've forgotten right now. Anyway, let's move on to the third and final of the 60th anniversary specials, the giggle. Straight up, just this episode was, I think, what everybody was expecting when it came to a 60th anniversary. It was over the top, it was massive, it was big. Yeah. So basically, obviously, this is starring Neil Patrick Harris as the Toymaker, or the Celestial Toymaker, if you prefer. And basically, he uses Stooky Bill in order to implant a giggle inside people's brains, another trigger, if you will, into people's brains that basically gets activated when a global network goes online, to the point where now everyone thinks they are right. Everybody thinks they are right, no matter what they say. This is quite clearly a big old stab at internet culture. And the fact that everybody is a keyboard warrior and no one takes ownership for the things they say online, because some of the things you'd say online you would never say in person to someone, because you'd get a very quick knuckle sandwich to the teeth if you did that in real life, let's be honest. So from that point of view, it was some of these episodes are really satirical in that respect, and I like it. I like the fact that Russell T Davies is dealing with some of these modern issues that are popping up. And I've just got to say that Neil Patrick Harris was an absolute delight in this episode. There are rumours that obviously he'll be coming back to reprise the role, and I really hope he does, because he just owned that role in so many ways. He reminds me of a bit of a Jim Carrey in a lot of ways, which is funny because, of course, he played Count Olaf in the series Unfortunate Events Netflix TV series, and of course Jim Carrey played Count Olaf in the movie series of Unfortunate Events. So it's funny that I made that comparison. Obviously, I have to talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to this episode, and that is the bi-generation. I actually really enjoyed it, because I really enjoyed Ncuti Gatwa's and David Tennant's interaction with each other when, of course, they played ball with the Toymaker towards the end of the episode, and of course he lost. That was just fantastic. The part where Ncuti Gatwa's doctor threw David Tennant, he was like, oh, careful. It's almost like that's because there's always a period of time after a generation that the doctor's still sort of getting used to the body, and that to me is like Ncuti Gatwa's doctor still getting used to the body. Really, really well done. The Spice Up Your Life segment, top notch, absolutely top notch. I actually watched some of the behind the scenes, and Neil Patrick Harris saying that was a really difficult scene to shoot. Again, this episode forces the Doctor to deal with some of the trauma from Clara, Bill, the Flux, Amy Pond, forces and brings Donna up to speed in a sense as well. Yeah, this episode had it all, and of course there are very much strong indications there's going to be a unit spin-off series. So yeah, all in all, the 60th anniversary, fantastic. Really, really good. It's a return to form for both RTD and Doctor Who, as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there who aren't exactly over-enamoured about the current woke status of Doctor Who, and all I'm going to say to that is Doctor Who has always been a progressive show. It's always been a show that pushes the envelope says current themes, talks about current themes. And the most recent episodes of Doctor Who, the 60th anniversary episodes. So Doctor Who was actually inspired by the Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone came out in 1959 and ran until 1964, was it? If I remember that correctly. Doctor Who is heavily inspired by Twilight Zone. And what the Twilight Zone basically was Rod Serling using the sci-fi guys to tackle prejudices of the 50s and 60s. And that's basically how I look at Doctor Who. That's RTD's new series. Obviously, before this, he did It's a Sin, which deals with the AIDS epidemic here in the UK that was in the late 80s, early 90s. So, of course, he's going to bring some current, things into Doctor Who. And all I'm going to say to those people who are saying what they're saying online is get a life, grow up. You don't have to watch Doctor Who, and you don't have to keep posting online that fans of Doctor Who are rejecting gay black Doctor, or the Doctor's now bi or gay. May I bring your attention to the fact that Christopher Eccleston's Doctor flirted with Captain Jack Harkness in the very first series of New Who. The very first series, The Doctor Dances, I do believe was the episode, he flirts with Captain Jack Harkness. The Doctor's sexuality has always been fluid. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that part, and let's move into the Christmas special, which The Church on Ruby Road. Now, this was a bit of a nothing episode to me, in that, everything happens in the episode is kind of tied up towards the end, but we have now heard from RTD they are going to return to the church, so maybe it was a setup episode. But I need to get to the mindset of some of the creature feature episodes, the Monster of the Week episodes, and of course the Monster of the Week this week was, of course, the Goblins. This introduces us to Ruby Sunday, played by Millie Gibson, played brilliantly by Millie Gibson, and of course it's Ncuti Gatwa's first solo outing as the Doctor, and just massive thumbs up. I love Ncuti Gatwa already as the Doctor. Reminds me of myself in a lot of ways. Very kind of blunt, to the point. I've actually been watching some Patrick Troughton episodes recently. Patrick Troughton is a very sarcastic, sassy, blunt Doctor, and I feel Ncuti Gatwa is very similar in some of those ways, and takes no shit. Basically, I really, really like that out of it. The musical number in the middle of the episode, the Goblin song, I think as it's being called, fantastic to hear both Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson sing. I didn't know that they could sing, my god. And apparently there's going to be more musical numbers going forward, so that's something to look out for going forward. And of course we get the kind of the tease at the end of Mrs. Flood, as she's being called, where she sort of winks at the camera and goes, "Have you not seen her TARDIS before?" So now we get the mystery of who is Mrs. Flood. I'm really looking forward to May. Of course, bit of a wait, 5-month wait until the new series of Doctor Who. I know there's a lot of people online saying it's series 14. I don't mind calling it season 1. I don't mind it being a soft reboot. I understand why they've done it. Obviously, the distribution rights now being with Disney, or the international distribution rights being with Disney. I understand the resetting of the season number, so I'm all on board with that. Yeah, and just overall really enjoyed. I wasn't as big as a fan of Church on Ruby Road. I may do a rewatch in the next few days and see how I feel after a rewatch. But I really like the chemistry that's already brewing between Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor and Millie Gibson, or Ruby Sunday, if you prefer. Yeah, just really enjoy this. I'm really looking forward to where Doctor Who now takes us. So that's been my views, opinions, on the 60th anniversary specials, including the Christmas special. And I think the next video that I might be doing, it's either a review of Fury of the Deep, or I might be doing a review of The Five Doctors, which is the 20th anniversary special, if I do believe. That was done 40 years ago. That's a bit of a wow, 40 years ago for that episode. My God. But yeah, you can expect more of these Doctor Who reviews going forward. But until next time, guys, please take care, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day. Cheerio.